One of the first things you might want to configure when you hop into Joomla is the global configuration. And just like the name suggests, this is where you configure the big pieces of your Joomla website. So let's go ahead and take a look at global configuration. There are several ways you can access global configuration from the control panel. It's available here under System. The second link down is for global configuration. It's available here on the right side of the screen under the quick icons. There's a link to global configuration, and it's over here on the left side of the screen under System. All three of these links take you to the same place, so pick one and click it, and you'll be located here inside of the global configuration. So this is where we can change many of the big items on this website. Things like the site name. So the site name is Kinetico. Perhaps I really want this to be Kinetico, Inc. So I could change my site name to that. The offline functionality I described to you a little bit earlier while we were installing Joomla. Let me just show you how that works. If I put the site offline by saying yes, and then I click this big green save button up here at the top of the page, the big green save button will save my settings, but will keep this window open so I can continue editing. You'll see a message on the top saying that I just saved this particular page. If I now click on my icon at the top here, which note now it says Kinetico, Inc., I can open up another tab and you'll see here is my front end of my website, but it's now hidden behind a login. So I can type in my username and password and I can log into the front end of the website. The advantage of doing this, of course, is that only those who have the login can see a site while it's under construction. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off again because it's a little bit of a pain in the neck to work with it while we're just working here on our local machine. So I'm going to set that back to no and click the big green save button one more time. You can customize some of the features associated with Site Offline in the next few blocks. We can also set our default editor and a couple of other things. I'll be covering some of these in a future video. Over here on the right side of the screen is where we can turn on or off our search engine friendly URLs. Those are turned on by default, so that's great. You may want to take a look at some of these other settings when your site gets to a web server, but probably the default settings are fine for running this on the computer that's in front of you. Include site name and page titles is a really important thing to turn on. If you take a look at the front end of the website and you take a look here at the tab where this web page is being displayed, that tab displays the HTML title tag. And right now that is set to home. Why? Because this is the home page and Joomla sets it up as home by default. But it's by itself is not a terribly descriptive HTML title tag. Search engines weight words that are located in the HTML title tag, actually fairly heavily. And what's more, if you're trying to bookmark a web page, right now I'm bookmarking something called home, which tells me nothing about what the site that I'm going to. So by default, Joomla ships without this turned on, but it's far better to change this setting because it will make your page name a little bit more descriptive. So where it says include site name and page titles, they're talking about this site name that you set over here in the left column, and we're going to change that to either after, so it would say home-Kinetico Inc., or before. So it would say Kinetico Inc. -home. And some people have philosophies as to whether one is better than another. I'm going to say before because I like that better for bookmarking. You can certainly say after if you think search engines prefer that type of thing. So by putting this to before and saying save again, when I refresh the front end of the website, click on the refresh icon, you'll see now that my tab says Kinetico Inc. -home. So that's a little bit more descriptive. But, of course, the word home isn't terribly descriptive either. I'll show you how to customize the rest of this HTML title tag in a future video. But this is key to the first part of it. At least get the company name in the HTML title tag. Okay, so down here a little bit further on the page on the left-hand side, we have the ability to set up our metadata for this website, including a meta description and meta keywords. My understanding is that search engines generally aren't reading meta keywords these days, so I didn't prepare any of those. But I do have a meta description. It's inside your exercise files. And if you open that up, there's a little bit of text that is located there. I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of that and say Edit, Copy. And I'm going to go ahead right here in this box and do a Control or Command V to paste in that text right here in this box. And you'll see, well, I'll put in a little funny space there, so I'll get rid of that. You'll see that I have a nice meta description here. This meta description will display on every page of the Joomla website unless I choose to override it on a page-by-page basis, which I can do either through an article or through a menu item, and I'll show you how to do that in a future video. But I think it's a good practice to set a global site meta description because they are used in Google and because the keywords that are located here can be weighted again for search engines. So write a short, precise meta description that's full of keywords that people will use to find your website, and make sure you put it on in here. The last few parts here that you might be of interest to you, down here at the bottom is a thing that says Show Joomla Version. This does not show the Joomla version on the back end of Joomla. This will show the Joomla version in the HTML head of the document. So if somebody viewed the source for the web page, they would see what's called a meta generator tag. It's another type of meta tag that would indicate that the site was built using Joomla 3.0.1 in this particular case, was what I'm using to record today. And so some people feel that that is a security issue. So you may not want to show that. And that is, in fact, why this is turned off by default. But if you wish to show your Joomla version in the head of your Joomla document, you can certainly turn this on. So that's what that's there for. All right, scrolling back on up to the top here, there are some additional tabs here that you can look through. In general, things that are located under System are things that you're not going to need to change. These are things like cache settings and session settings and debugging settings. One of the things, though, that might be helpful to you is the session lifetime. The session lifetime is how long can you walk away from your screen while working with Joomla and then return but still be logged in. And right now that's set to 15 minutes. So I can walk away from my computer for 15 minutes or up to 15 minutes. And when I come back, I'll still be logged into the back end of Joomla. Many people like to change this to a larger number than 15. In fact, I'll go ahead and change mine to 30. I would not recommend changing your session lifetime to any more than about an hour, 60 minutes. And the reason why is you want to automatically be logged out of the site if for some reason you walk away for an extended period of time. You don't want to leave yourself logged in as a session. Somebody could come up to your computer and make changes to your website. And it's just generally a bad practice to stay permanently logged into the back end of your Joomla website. That's a security issue. So up the session lifetime if you wish, but don't up it too far. So I'm going to go ahead and hit my green save button to take that setting. Over here on the server tab, there's pretty much nothing here you'll ever need to change unless you want to change your server time zone. So right now this is set to UTC or Greenwich Mean Time. You can change this on a city-by-city basis, at least for those of us in the United States. You can also set this on a basis of your country. So if you hit the down arrow here, Africa is listed first, followed by America. In America, you can find cities here that would be relevant to your particular time zone. I'm here on the west coast of the United States, so I'm going to choose Los Angeles. But you could certainly set this to New York or Indianapolis or some of the other major cities that would correspond to other time zones in the United States. And if you're in a country where there is only one time zone, you'll find your country listed in the list. You may eventually want to change something with mail settings. You probably won't need to touch the FTP settings. And you shouldn't need to touch the database settings. You set all of that up as part of your installation process. Under permissions, you'll see that this is where some of the ACL issues come in. I'm going to cover this in detail in the chapter on ACL, the access control lists. For right now, don't touch anything here. It's very easy to break your site messing with ACL. And then finally, there's a tab here for text filter settings. This controls what kind of HTML tags various levels of users can put into their website. And I'll have a video later where I go through this screen in detail. So pretty much the only things you're really going to need to touch inside of the global configuration are this first tab for site. There are a couple of issues that you may want to change. And then possibly under system, you may want to change the session settings to a higher number, but don't go over an hour. The rest of these tabs are things that you may not necessarily really need to change, or they're things that you're going to change in a different context. And I'll be going through those in many of the upcoming videos. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close. And this will return me to my control panel.